Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to another FInOp Town Hall. The community keeping it together even when we are apart. My name is Melva Payton Moore, and I am the founder. And I am so excited for the conversation we are getting ready to have. We have been trying to strategically theme our town halls so that we are addressing the needs of the community at the time that the need to be addressed. So we were thinking with this town hall that this is the first pandemic, this first pandemic of my lifetime, but this is the first holiday season during the pandemic. And it's kind of difficult imagining not being with our families, not having those regular traditional things. So we want to talk to our panel of experts, and they're going to tell us how to create new traditions, how to make this Thanksgiving as special, or this Christmas, or this holiday season, whatever you choose to observe, as special as any other holiday season has been in the past. But it's a new normal, y'all. So I can't do this by myself. I want to welcome our wonderful panelists. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. I am not the moderator today. We have a moderator, but I'm just here to introduce this wonderful town hall, this wonderful group of panelists, and let's get this conversation started. Is that all right? Yay! So we're going to go around, as we say, the virtual room. And I want to start with Mr. Etoya R. White, and then we're going to go around the room from there. Let us know who you are.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Etoya White. I am a licensed professional counselor. I'm the founder and therapist at Etoya R. White Therapy and Coaching. I also have a consulting brand, the Etoya R. White Brand LLC. I own an online mental wellness t-shirt and apparel store, which is called Theratees LLC. You can locate that at shoptheratees.com. I'm also an educator. I'm a dope dad, and I've been a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated for 25 years.
Come on, Sigma. Come on. Represent. Pastor Kai.
Well, man, he's
right.
I'm a dope dad. That's enough. I love it. That needs to be a shirt. I'm a dope dad. Because my name is Pastor Kai Panetta. I'm a pastor. My husband and I plant home fellowships within the U.S. and abroad. I'm also launched a coaching program this year during COVID called Chosen and Brave. I am the author of Dear Church, a book about the racial divide within the body of Christ. As well as occasionally I'm known as a recording artist who has 2 albums out occasionally. I'm a dope wife. Come on, somebody. I'm a dope friend, a dope sis. I'm just dope. You know what I mean? So
there you go.
Let's just keep the dopeness rolling. All right.
Absolutely. You are. I agree with all of that. Look, JR, we talked earlier this week. I'm excited to be seeing you again, talking to you again. We had a wonderful conversation. Introduce yourself.
Yes. So I go by JR, aka Courtney Orlando. I am a Grammy Award-winning producer, artist, songwriter. So also a dad, also a husband, and community leader. I get the chance of doing consulting for Life Arts Group here in St. Louis with Brian Owens. And so, when I'm not making music, I'm serving in the local church. When I'm not in local church, I'm in the streets. When I'm not in the streets, I'm at the crib being a priest in my home. So.
Nice. Thank you all. We have 2 other panelists that will be joining us. One is coming in right now. Perfect timing, Coach. And we're waiting for Candace Cox. I'm sure she'll be here soon. Coach Juan, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. What do you do?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Coach Shaquan. I study how people communicate, connect, and behave or show up in personal, professional, and intimate relationships. As a certified relationship coach and an energy leadership expert, I am the brilliance behind the transformational process called Check Your BS. The BS stands for belief system, or whatever has you stuck in a pattern of thinking or way of doing that doesn't allow you to move forward or reach your goals.
We love it. We love it. See, listen, when we say we bring you a panel of experts, that's exactly what we're doing. I am going to now turn it into one that I feel is even more capable, as they would say at church, to carry us further. Okay, come on, put your hands together. My sister, y'all, I brag on her so much because she is the best. If you've ever wanted to have someone in your corner, non-judgy, but will be completely honest and direct with you, just love you through it, that's my sister. Arthur Bailey West, she's not gonna pump herself up, so I had to do that in the beginning. She's gonna be all humble on here. But Arthur Bailey West, tell us who you are and take us further. I'm done talking.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bailey West. I am a St. Louis native, but I currently reside on the East Coast. I am the author of 9 African-American contemporary romance novels, and I too am a dope wife, a dope mother, and a dope friend. So let's get this started. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. The community is my passion. It's my joy. I love who I am. I am unapologetically Black, and I celebrate us. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the community and keeping it together, while we're apart. This pandemic has been something that none of us have experienced, right? I remember when they first mentioned that we were going to be staying home from work. And they were like, well, if you have a concern, just let us know. And I'm playing. I'm like, yeah, I have a concern because I just wanted to stay home and work, not knowing that that it was serious, So now we are in the throes of it. We are in something that we don't see ourselves getting out of anytime soon. So let's talk about that and how it impacts the community. So I'm gonna go around the room and ask this first question, and then you guys we'll take it from there. So in your line of work, and what you do professionally or what you do to stimulate the community, to make the community better, how has the pandemic affected you? So we'll start with Itoya.
Me personally, so I think that, obviously as a therapist, it's caused us to shift gears and accept, telehealth has always been around, but it's obviously, caused us to have to reimagine what we do as therapists, because so many more people, it's not that more people have needs, it's that more people have been forced to sit with their needs and now have to express them in a different way. And so it's caused us to, again, just kind of this whole new normal from a professional standpoint has caused us to have to just expand what we do, expand our knowledge base. Me personally, as a dad, as an educator, just kind of accepting what this new normal is, whether it's temporary or whether there's going to be some long-term implications. And we've literally just had to reshape everything that we do personally, professionally, and otherwise. So, like I said, for me, it's just been understanding the actual like some of these things we've always wanted to do, but new regulations, legislations, or whatever have you, have really brought to life some of the things that we've always needed to happen.
Cool. That's wonderful. Pastor?
Mute myself. Okay, there we go. I saw the mute button. I was like, let me unmute myself. So I want to give 2 answers if I can, because I think that if I give my personal answer, that might not help nobody. This didn't affect me. And let me tell you why. Because now, let me say this. It has affected all of us in the sense of there is a weight in the world. We all feel it. Fear has gripped the hearts of people, right? And so there's been a sadness. But for me personally, I think where the global church has missed it is that we have been so focused with our programs that we have not really tapped into the seasons and what God is doing and what God is saying. And so for us, it's been very important taking every fellowship online. And I laugh because I don't know if y'all remember, there was a time where people were ridiculed and shamed for watching service online, right? Going to online service. But we've taken our services online, and we've actually doubled in size because there were so many ministries across the world. We have people from other countries who literally were not able to pivot. They had never, right? They didn't have the systems in place. And so it really shows us where we as the body have to get to, letting go a lot of these doctrines and theologies that are not biblically based, and really calling the church home to God. And so where I think pastors had a great opportunity to get people to see their own space, their own selves, as the house of God, the place where God dwells. Many people are still hungering for a building they can't get to and are missing the bride they are. So that would be my answer.
Oh, that was good. That was great. That's great. JR?
Well, as an artist, I would be lying if I didn't say this thing hasn't affected my community. And it's a two-part question answer as well. So for me, how has it affected our household? It really hasn't, and that's a blessing in itself. So we've been blessed not to catch COVID. None of my immediate family has had it. Some of my extended cousins have had it, but our family has been good. Financially, I would say that's where I took the biggest hit, because I depend on touring, I depend on traveling for sessions, I depend on being in person to govern sessions, to consult, to write, and do all these other things. And so, I'm grateful for the things that are in place, like the PPP programs, because everybody in my community felt it. Everybody, whether you're a producer, whether you an artist. But the other thing about that is that when we adapt, and so if you guys are on Instagram or listen to fans of hip hop and R&B from the 90s, then something called the Versus was born in COVID. And that thing is going to be, financially, what it's doing for them and for that community is crazy. But that's just one example of adapting during this stay home period for people who are used to getting out and creating and making money by being in other people's spaces to tell them how to do their thing. But now you still do it in a sense, but it's cut back, scaled back in a way that if we didn't have the government assistance, or if we didn't have a big, large, saving somewhere or some type of egg, it is still very hard for a lot of us. But I've been blessed to kind of have a wife who works for the school district, so her job is never in jeopardy. So as a creator over the years, I've benefited from that tag team. So shout out to my wife when we're talking about dope wives. She's a wife that that has held me down in these storms, and so she's used to it by now. But I would be lying if I didn't say that this didn't affect me directly right at the head of my business.
I could imagine. Coach Shaquan.
Yes. So interesting, very, very interesting question. So I'll start with myself personally. When we first started, right, and March 13th is that day that we begin to recognize, right, March 13th. And so I remember seeing everybody get online. Everybody became an expert in teaching, preaching, health, cooking, coaching, counseling, therapy. Everybody became an expert. And so being someone who had been kind of in the social media light, but kind of still playing small, telling the truth, I got frustrated. And so I'm like, you know what? Everybody, they need to like some people don't need access to live. Some people don't need access to say these things. It was just very frustrating with the information overload. So I'm fussing all of these voices and no value, all of these voices and no value. And then the Spirit spoke to me and said, that's interesting how you judge them for having voices with no value and you have value with no voice. And I said, ooh, okay. And so for me, it was about obedience and learning that we had such a privilege of moving about and doing what we wanted to do and ignoring what we were called to do and what we were purposed to do, right? So whether that had been putting focus on your family, right? And so just similar to what some of the other panelists have said, so I'm a dope wife too. Let's get that clear, okay? Let's do that, okay? And I got a dope husband. Let's do that too, okay? So really, it helped us because we had been labeled ourselves OTG, on the go. It really helped us to stop, right? And really just enjoy the luxury of having a healthy family. And so when I started looking at how I could begin to serve and really looking at the needs of what was happening, I noticed that people started getting the courage, right, and the confidence to be online, to birth their products, to birth their ideas. And so I think what it has really done for us is really exposed us from this fear that we had of being seen, of being judged, of being rejected, and allowed so many people to do things that they probably would not have done had the OTG-ness, right?
Correct.
And everything. So it was for me, obedience and exposure.
That's great. That's great. Melvin?
I probably have several answers as well, because listen, I am an all around, what they call it, a Renaissance woman. So it's affected several of my businesses in different ways. With FInOp in particular, it has given us the opportunity and a platform. People are looking for what to do from here. How do I build my process from here? What's the new normal? Which has really set the stage for what we are doing, taking a holistic approach to financial wellness and creating that generational wealth. Another way, though, that it has, okay, so let me say this. It's been all positive. Isn't that crazy? I don't want to sound selfish, but it really has. This has almost been a blessing in disguise. When, as Coach Shaquan said, when you are on the go, me and my husband and my family, we lived our lives on the go. My daughter was always busy. My son is always busy. My husband was gigging and working and working. Me, I'm always working. It was always something. And to have that abrupt stop, like, listen, whether you have things to do or not, it's over. You're going to have to sit down. It gave us that opportunity to sit down and reset, to sit down and really look at some things and evaluate some things. Was everything roses after the evaluation? No, that would not be true. But there was growth. There's wisdom. There is awareness. So I'm grateful for that. Of course, with my tax company that's coming under the umbrella of FInOp, Professional Income Tax Services, LLC. Honey, it went on and extended that thing for me. Oh, Kirk, listen, I'm normally done around May, and then I have my little bookkeeping clients that trickle throughout the year. By it pushing the deadline to July, I was working busy. And now at the same time, they're finally processing people's returns. So now the questions are coming through. So it's just been a miraculous thing that during this time or this season of rest, he has continued to sustain me. So that's how it's changed. It's given me perspective. I'm going to say one last thing and then I'm going to stop talking. But the Bible tells us in James that we are to count it all joy when we fall into diverse temptations or various temptations. Knowing this, there has to be a knowledge when you're going into it. An awareness when you're going into it, that the trying of your faith. So we know that a wise man looks for trouble. Some of us are so used to trying to avoid trouble and push it off, but it is in our adversity that the trying of our faith is working patience. And then patience is able to have its perfect work so that you can be entire and wanting for nothing. And that is, I feel, what this pandemic has done. It has brought trouble in the best way to where I've just sharpened my skills. So I'm embracing it. We got another year of this, y'all. Did you see
that? Facts, real facts.
Yeah. We do. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how then we have adjusted. Some of you spoke to that already about some of the adjustments that you made, but let's talk a little bit about growth. Let's talk a little bit about how your growth has impacted the community. So my question is, during this time of stay at home, during this time of quarantine, during this pandemic, what have you evolved into, or what have you changed in your life that has directly impacted the community? And I'm not talking, it doesn't have to be a huge impact of the community as a whole, but even just within your small sphere of influence. What has changed, or what have you impacted by those changes? Melvin?
I feel like already we have given what I've done to change the community or impact is given this free education. I think this was a perfect opportunity to bring in these town halls so that we could talk to experts and figure out how to cope. You know, we talk about the wisdom of the crowd a lot. There is a wisdom that you find in synergy. Sometimes we try to figure it out all alone, and we are a victim to not only our own thoughts, but our own point of views, our own perspective. I always call it looking out the windows of this house, but I can only say what goes on in my house. I don't know what goes on in every house, so my perspective sometimes can be tunneled, or I have this tunnel vision. And I feel like what we've contributed is other ways to look at it, other ways to see it. Look, taking that holistic approach. Again, our panelist represents each element of what we consider having balance in your life, those 4 elements: spiritual, physical, intellectual, and social, and how having that balance causes your life to move forward. And I feel like that's what I've given is the opportunity to have a platform for people like us to talk to people like us about what we're going through and how to manage this. This is new. This is new for us.
That's good. So FINOp has been one of your contributions to the community since the pandemic has started.
Yes.
Good job. All right. Pastor, the same question for you.
I don't know why you're putting me after her, but that's my sister. I love her.
That's because you're dope.
It's a really great question, and I want to piggyback off something that Melva said earlier, because she and I talked about this maybe a couple months ago. But when all of this first happened, the first word that came to my spirit that the Lord gave me was reevaluation. And then he said removal and then reset. And I think many of us might have gotten to that stage of reevaluation, but we were very afraid of the removal, the things, the people, the ideas, the places, the fear that we needed to remove out of our lives in order to get to the reset. And, you know, my prayer is that for now, as we're ending this year, going into the same thing, because I don't know how many, I mean, God bless you, but I think we're all on one accord. We're not done, guys. So let that go. Okay, let it go. But my prayer now is that people would begin to step into the reset, because as much as we want to call this a new normal, what we were doing before was not normal. So this is not a new normal. This is actually getting into a space where now we realize everything has changed. I asked someone recently, do y'all remember pre 9/11? Do y'all remember that TSA was supposed to be for 1 year? They were like, this is just temporary. It has been 20 years that we have had TSA, right? I grew up in Northern California. In Northern California, a lot of people from Asian countries come, and we would laugh because they would always have on masks. We were like, why are they wearing these masks? Hello. Here we are, right? So for me, one of the things that it was very important was not to just talk about hope, but to be a place of hope. And so for me, that was very important, to create spaces for people to have community. Not just on the Bible study Wednesday or our main fellowship, but throughout the week. How can we connect people and give and be hope for them, and not just talk about hope as this, right, as this thing that exists in the air? But we're always saying we want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Well, what are you doing to be that? Right? So it's like, who needs food? Who is struggling with their light bills? Who, right? Like all the real stuff, right? While God bless the other ministries that were giving money to help ministries lights stay on, we were like, who needs lights on in their house? Who needs someone to just drive by and drop off some groceries? Who is alone by themselves? There's a lot of people that did this alone. We got a whole bunch of dope wives and husbands here, but a lot of people did this alone. And so how can I be hope for the single woman, the single mother, the single father, right? How can I be hope to the teenagers who lost their graduations, right? So instead of talking about it and trying to get them to get an idea of hope, it was to be hope.
Hope is so important. Hope is pivotal to moving forward, because at one point when this first happened, we were hopeless because we didn't see an end in sight, and we didn't know what was happening or how it was going to happen. So to then provide that hope for people is so crucial and so important. That's really good. Coach Shaquan?
Yes. I want to piggyback off of what Pastor just said. One of the things that my belief system says is that hope is not a plan. So once you have the hope, what do you do next? And so what I chose to do in this moment was come up with a formula that would help me to shift, and it was to commit, be consistent, and complete. Because what we've done is we've had a lot of hope. We've had a lot of dreams. We've had a lot of plans. We had a lot of ideas. But what will you do with it once it's done? So we commit to it, which now we've had the time and the space to do that. We are consistent with it because a lot of the distractions, right, and some of the things that had been going on that we were filling time with and filling space with things, right, and people, to your point, and getting rid of these things and people and situations. So now that we can commit and be consistent, then now we can complete something. And so having people to really understand, from my perspective, checking their BS, right, their belief system, and getting clear on the thought process that they have. So thoughts create feelings, feelings create emotions, emotions create actions. What you think becomes what you do. So if you, again, have the hope, if you have the idea, if you have the desire, then it's the process that has to happen between what you think and what you do that really matters in terms of what the outcome will be. So whether that be in your marriage, if it's in your career, if it's in personal relationships, and again, speaking, and I think that's a very good point, that we had the privilege of having partners, right, in companionship during this time. If you did not have that, though, what will you do in this moment to create that for yourself, right? Taking the time to do a lot of interpersonal work. And so for me, showing up, right, committing, being consistent, and completing has allowed me to help other people shift, and so that they can take that hope and turn it into and make that become their fruition, right? Make it come and manifest out to what they wanted it to be.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Giving people strategies and tools to move forward and to navigate through this is so important.
Yeah.
Itoya?
Yeah, so definitely I mean, some great things have been said already. I think for me, as Les Brown said, when things go wrong, don't go with them. And so in this, in this time, I guess for me personally, I know as a professional, personally and professionally, right, I've had to sit with my own self and realize that the need for understanding the difference between personal self-care and coping strategies, right? And so a lot of the people who have, come to me, or, some of my other in the, mental wellness community, I think a lot of people are realizing how much time we've spent running around in survival mode. So what we've had to do is, again, and as I state to, my clients or when I'm consulting, everybody doesn't need therapy, but everybody needs relationships. So during this time for myself, I've had to evaluate, where relationships fit, what they look like, which ones are healthy, which ones have an expiration date, because some of our relationships do have expiration dates. And a lot of times we allow them to stale on the counter thinking that they may still have some value at some point, and they don't. They just ride on the shelves. And so again, for me and the work that I do in the community is just helping people understand that we're not dead in this, right? There's opportunities for us to do some self-evaluation, learn the difference between personal self-care and coping strategies so that you can create plan, goal, and action steps that can start now. You don't have to wait until this situation is over. You don't have to wait. The time to act is now. And that is evaluating those relationships, looking inside yourself first, right? I posted earlier today, like, it's easier to love the one you're with when you understand how to love the one you are. And this is a great opportunity for us to do that as individuals so that we come out on the other side of this better able to serve our community as a whole.
That's amazing. That's really good. The part about the relationships is so crucial. Because when we were on the go, as everyone was talking about so far, we did tend to kind of just push things to the side, and we'll get to them when we could. But now being home and not being on the go, we have to address those things. And we have to realize that some of those things were stopping us from moving forward. So that's really good. JR?
Yo, I'm listening to this like I'm sitting in my studio, but I got fire in my bones, because it's amazing how when you hear other people who are connected, um, you hear the testament of God doing the exact same thing. So for me, COVID reminds me of like the story of Naomi and Ruth, because I think of it as a famine of sorts. For me, and at least in my field, I think of, Joseph, you know what I'm saying, and what that famine did. So for me, and how God used Joseph in that hour, for me, I don't even know if I would be alive right now if it wasn't for COVID. And it's funny, I'm listening to Pastor speak, I'm listening to, Dr. Etoya speak. But, I've been struggling with depression, with mental illness for about 5 years. And so over the break, God did the opposite with me, in a different way. As far as, now, I did step things up in a way, but he broke things down. So Pastor, when you talked about, reevaluating, assessing yourself, that's the first thing I did when COVID hit. God had me assess myself. And lo and behold, I went on sabbatical. I was the elder of my church, went on a sabbatical because I needed to get my mind and my heart right. And, Dr. Toy, you talk about loving yourself. And so here I am as an elder on a board, and know the gospel, but hated myself. So the first thing that happened with me, during COVID, God set me down. It was like, you ain't doing nothing. So you used to being out mentoring dudes, you used to being out in the streets, you was doing all of this. He was like, sit your butt down, take care of you, hear from me, and get instructions on what's next. And it's been scary, but it's been one of the best choices I've ever made. And so out of that, I ended up leaving a church that I was at for 12 years. I was responsible for a lot there and had all intentions on coming back. We just brought in a new pastor, but God was like, nah, that season is past. And it rocked me. It rocked my elders, rocked my, my family, our church family. But I was obedient, and it was right. And it's uncomfortable, but I will say this, for me, how that when I see the light in it, is that when I was obedient, I found out that I was disobedient in another area of my life. So, I'm an artist. I'm a Grammy Award winning producer. All I know is music and people. And so I hadn't been in my music for at least half a decade. And the first thing that awoke when COVID hit and I was obedient to that call was to get back into my music. A long story short, I ended up meeting up with another Grammy Award winning producer trio. We made over 30 songs over the summer. And when I tell you 2021 will be, I don't care, COVID or no COVID, it will be amazing. The fruit that was birthed during this summer will be amazing. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just like, I really have little to say. I've had so much to say over these years. I'm blessed to be in the company of so many magnificent women. And I'm a sponge right now. God has shown me so much about myself. And I'm just like, I'm teachable again. It's almost when I was 25. And so I'm not that pastor. I'm not that guy you see. I'm like, I am, but I'm in such a humble position where I'm just trying to learn myself, because what he's going to need from me after COVID, I ain't gonna have no time for games. I'm not gonna have no time for sleeping. I'm not gonna have no time for self-hate and all these things that, weigh us down. And so right now I'm just doing the hard work, but I'm in a season where God has allowed me the space to be able to do that.
That's beautiful. One of the things that, Pastor, I got you, because I know you got something.
I was gonna say good. I said I want to throw in a comment.
Yeah, everybody got something to say. This is so good, and I'm gonna let everybody piggyback for sure. But it's so good because in order to effectively minister, we have to come from a place of knowing who we are and humbleness. And sometimes when we are so busy working in ministry, all of that go out the door because of the work of the ministry. Yeah. But then we forget about the work of ourselves, because you got to know you got to, the Bible says, love God and love his people. We are his people. But if we're not loving ourselves, then how can we love others? And sometimes we get so busy with church stuff that ain't got nothing to do with the kingdom. It ain't got nothing to do with salvation. Ain't got nothing to do with nothing but just work.
Just work.
And then, you know, we find ourselves burnt out. And but we'll keep working burnt out. And there's a lot of pastors that's preaching in pulpits right now, burnt out.
Oh yeah.
They need to take a seat and hear from God again. Because all they doing is just recycling the same stuff, you know, and nobody is growing. No, but because I'm sitting in church on Sunday and because I'm paying my tithes, I think that that's going to get me somewhere. But I still have to have the relationship, you know. So that was amazing. Thank you for sharing, Pastor. Go ahead.
Well, first, JR, I just want to thank you because number one, what you did and are doing is literally something I've been sharing since COVID started. There will be some of you who are listening right now that you will never walk back into the ministry you left during COVID.
Yes.
Some of you have known it was time to shift, but because of, you know, religious commitments, you have overstayed, right? Then there are some of us in leadership that God is trying to shift, but because we have been taught things erroneously out of a spirit of manipulation.
Come on,
I'm sorry. We have stayed in places that we knew. But what I want to thank you because we've seen it and we will continue to see it. Not only is God not playing with us, he is exposing. And we continue to see right now men and women of God that we have all esteemed greater than God. And they are falling before our very eyes. And this is the moment where, and so, excuse me, I don't call the building church because that is not biblically correct. It's not a proper exegesis of the word church. Church is the whole congregation, which is people. The only reason you can call that building church is because the church walked in it. But this is the hour where God is trying to get the church, us, to come back to him and stop being so building focused and get bride ready. And so the evaluation of the bride is pivotal right now. The reason why so many people can't shift with God right now is because they are still too building focused. They are still too program focused. We are watching pastors still trying to assimilate services, asking people to come outside and hold a camera during a time where we should not be asking anybody to jeopardize their lives for the sake of saying we had church.
Facts.
And so I want to commend you publicly as a man of God who listened to the Lord and has done the work to not only take care of his family, but his church to be the church wherever you go. And so I can't wait to hear and see. And I just tell you right now, it is not just music that is going to be 2021. There is another level of word and another level of example that men are going to follow after you. And you are going to lead men to wholeness and healing because you were courageous enough. And so like Coach Shaquan, one of the things at the beginning of the year, we've been talking about discipleship the whole year. The Lord told us 3 things. It was going to take commitment, consistency, and courage. We need courage right now. And what you just did was show courage. And so I hope other men and women who are like, I've known that I've been feeling you know what I mean? All the things that they've been bound by that are not the freedom in God, that they are released today in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
That's a word. That's a word.
It is.
Listen, first of all, y'all trying to have church in here, and we supposed to be happy Sabbath. I just want to piggyback on that, and I kind of want to make a comment, and maybe there's a question underneath it all, but I do want to speak to that, JR. I appreciate your transparency, and I want to say to JR, Andy, Toya, both, you know, men always have this. They have this presence where they're supposed to be strong or they're supposed to have it together. And the fact that you're able to come out and say, listen, I've been battling depression for 5 years, yada, yada, yada. How do you get to that place? How do men get to the place, because again, we can't begin to work on it or to fix it until we realize that we have it. So how do we get men to that place where they don't have to no longer fall under the stigma of you have to be tough, men don't cry, men don't do this, men don't show emotion, this is what you call to do, you the man of the house, or you're a minister, and even when it gets hard, you're supposed to keep. Who is there to tell our men that it's okay to feel, and it's okay to be, to feel maybe even depressed at times, or to reach out for help? How do we change that narrative? I didn't mean to take over the question, Paula, but or Bailey, but I was going to have another comment, but my comment went sideways because I really love the direction we're going with this conversation, just kind of being open. I think we're talking about keeping it together. How does a man keep it together when they're supposed to be looked at as already having it together, and when they don't have it together, sometimes even women, or we will appear as, look at a man as being weak. How do we change that narrative? Either one of you are, Etoya or JR.
Yeah, I'll let Toya. It's fine. You got to unmute him.
All right. So that has to come from us, right? I think that we as a community of men, with those of us who are, leaders in this community, much like JR just spoke to, is acknowledging our own vulnerabilities and getting to the point where we can no longer hide. Again, as I stated, this veil or this cover on avoidant behaviors has been pulled back, and it's important for us to be, if we're going to do that, right? So we come from, as men, we come from or faced with a situation where historically we've been intentionally and methodically and systematically separated from our families and our communities, which is a part of what has us in the position that we're in now. So it's up to us. We're not going to be able to get that from anybody else. We're not going to be able to get that from our women and children. We have to face our own, the reality of our own projection of faulty concepts of maleness, manhood, and masculinity, and take responsibility for those concepts ourselves, right? This is core beliefs. Much like Coach Shaquan says, the BS, it's in those core belief systems that then lead to assumptions, that then lead to automatic thoughts, emotions, actions, and so on. And so it's up to us to do that. We have to be the ones to recognize that what's the worst that could happen if we decide to change something? What's the worst that could happen if we don't accept this concept of maleness, manhood, and masculinity, and then make a decision to change it, right? And somebody's going to have, much like we've had the John Lewises and the other individuals who have laid down and sacrificed in order for these changes in culture to happen, it's going to have to be us, right? Because we're the ones that are in it right now, and we have to be the new guy. We have to be the new hero. We have to be the new one. And it doesn't have to be, we don't have to have 1 million followers to do it. You don't have to have, a huge social media. You don't have to do nothing. You can start right at the crib where you are now, in the classroom where you teach, in the streets that you walk, in the store that you shop in, the team that you coach, or whatever have you, and start with the individual first, right? Because at some point, this concept of burnout or whatever have you starts with looking inside yourself and understanding what your limits are. If you don't know your own emotional condition and capacity, or emotional condition, as I teach it, is where you are now. It's the sum total of where you are as an individual right now. And your emotional capacity is your bandwidth for growth in any of these areas. And so again, as men, it starts with us. We cannot look outside of ourselves and outside of the community as men, right? So my goal is to assist us in helping us to meet each other, greet each other, and treat each other differently. And it starts with us, right? If you can't look to the man to your right and to your left and be able to have a conversation with that man about parenting, right? We got, whoever it is, pastors, teachers, whatever the people in our community, and we can't learn about healthy relationships or how to be a husband or how to be a father or whatever have you. And we continue these cycles of gifting trauma to each other, or passing down this inheritance of trauma and dysfunction, then that's how it's going to continue. We can't look to women to do that, because then it becomes, we're being emasculated and all these other type of things. We have to be able to challenge and look inside each other and look at the man that's across from you, and just and be able to learn and grow and heal in our spaces where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. And I've also heard someone say, a man, I think maybe it was my pastor, I'm not sure, but that men look for community among men. And I think that finding the right community is important, like you were talking about, because then those men will hold you accountable for your actions. And, no longer should we accept the high fives when you stepping out on your wife or when you, doing things that you're not supposed to do, but those men around you then will hold you accountable for those things that you are doing or not doing to take care of yourself and take care of your family. We've just brought in Candace Cox. Hello. Can you say hi to the group and introduce yourself? We're going to unmute you. There you go.
There we go. I'm just talking. Well, great day, everybody. My name is Candace Cox, and I am a licensed clinical social worker here in St. Louis. I specialize in intergenerational and environmental trauma.
Thank you for joining us. We were just asking a question about men and their ability to cope with situations and who do they go to, or how do we get past the idea that men are not supposed to cry, men are not supposed to have issues, but just silently carry the load. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that, it's very important. It goes with removing that stigma across the board. That whole, I hate the concept where we are telling our young men that they have to be strong, and our young men are believing that strong means that they don't cry, and strong means that they don't feel, and that they don't understand or acknowledge their feelings. And I think that, it's very important for us to continue as women and men to talk to our young men about the importance of learning how to be okay with not being okay, and learning how to reach out, and learning that it is absolutely okay for me to acknowledge and deal with my emotions and my feelings, because broken people break people down. And, we can't keep having, broken men that continue to create and raise broken babies because they never took the time to unlearn the things that they thought were right and relearn new ways of doing things.
That's amazing. That's so true. All right. So I'm going to go to some of the questions that you guys were sent, because I could just go ahead and, go all off script the entire time, because this conversation is amazing. But what I want to talk about a little bit is the holidays. And so we know that, typically during the holidays, we get together with our family and friends. We have Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah parties, Kwanzaa parties, Christmas parties, New Year's Eve. We party, from, November to January. And so with us going back into, different levels, some places are level 1, level 2, we are not able to get together with our families. So let's talk about, first of all, what can we do to create a new normal? What can we do to still feel connected to our community, even though we're apart? So let's talk about it first from the spiritual perspective. Pastor, what do you think?
Well, first, let me say this. Can we please take the passage of scripture that says, obey the laws of the land, church people? Let's talk about that. Let's just start there, okay? Obey the laws of the land. So whatever stage you are in, I'm going to need you to obey, okay? Let's do that as people of God that act like we're going to follow the word. Let's start there, okay? But really, you have to create with who you have what you've done. So we're talking about Thanksgiving, right? I'm gonna talk to all of us because this is a whole panel of Black people. Okay, Thanksgiving in my house is a very big deal. I don't know about your house, but Thanksgiving is a big deal with a lot of food. Okay, now you can still make it a big deal and have your home, whoever that consists of. If you're able to have 10 people, whatever place you're in or whatever, right? Keep within the numbers and still do what you would have done with less people. And then guess what? Get on Zoom calls and call, set up times with your family, pray together, have conversation, share what you're grateful for. You know what I mean? Try to keep, stay connected. Let me tell you the best thing that ever happened to all of us is called FaceTime. And if you have an Android, God bless you. I know you got, I know, I'm gonna talk to y'all too. I don't want to exclude you, Androiders. You have IMO, okay? You've got Hangout, Duo, whatever that is. But God has afforded us in this time. Think about this, guys. If this was 20 years ago and we had COVID, it would be even more detrimental to people's, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual state, because they would have no way to connect outside of physical connection. God has given us so many ways to connect that many of us are not utilizing because we just want things to go back to the way they were. Pivot. Call your family. Decide we're going to have a Thanksgiving prayer time. There's going to be 100 of us on a Zoom, so somebody get the account that's not free. We gotta, you know what I mean? If we got to do different FaceTimes, you know what I'm saying? We're going to share gratefulness. We're going to love on each other. We're going to have a Thanksgiving Day Zoom party. I mean, people are doing birthdays, people are doing, drive-bys. Maybe you drive by because, they've been in drive-by birthdays. Maybe you drive by. But my thing is, instead of trying to make what you want, think about what people need. So let's think about the elderly during this time. Let's think about those in the nursing homes, or those in orphanages, or right? Like, let's go beyond dealing with what we want and how we're trying to keep everything normal, and go, how can I go beyond me and give more of me in this time that I actually might have more than everybody else? I might actually have plenty. So it goes back to this moment of Joseph, JR, that I've watched. I'm like, wow, we really had time to get in place, because if we look at the story of Joseph interprets the dream for Nebuchadnezzar as 7 years of famine and 7 years of plenty. In the years of famine, he stores so much. I'm sorry, in the years of plenty, he stores so much that in the year of famine, they don't even miss nothing. Mm-hmm. They've got so much that they're giving to other parts of the world, of the country, right? And so many of us don't realize that our vats are overflowing, and that this is a moment that in this midst of famine, we have more. So we got to go beyond ourselves right now and stop being so self-focused. And how is my Thanksgiving going to be? And how can I make this? Okay, who can I be a place of hope? Who can I bring, right? The joy of gratitude, the joy of Thanksgiving. And how can I make that not just a day anymore, but the way I live?
That's great. That's real good. So what about from a mental health perspective? Those people who we talked about earlier are not in, they don't have people within the home with them. They're not in relationships. They haven't created a bubble. So they're not able to go out and be with someone during the holidays. How do we address that, or how can we help them? I'll start with Candace.
I think one of the biggest things that we have to do, and it goes back to us learning how to grieve the loss of what we had. And we have to understand that right now we're all going through a grieving period. You don't just grieve the loss of death, when it's as a person, we grieve the loss of things. And so we have to really take into consideration that during this holiday season, we need to grieve the loss of things as they were, so that we can have the ability to embrace things as they actually are right now. That allows us to open up our minds so that we can create a new normal, because that's what's happening right now. As long as we are so held on to what we used to do, we can't embrace what we have and open up to what we need to do to create something different. If we are in our homes, there are a lot of people. I've seen so many people that are dealing with depression, right now. I've seen so many people where their anxiety is super high right now, and it's because that, of everything that we're dealing with the pandemic, on top of the, the stress that we were dealing with before this pandemic happened. That stuff didn't go away, it just heightened basically. And so if you are a person that is by yourself and you haven't created that bubble and you are used to going out to see other people, now it's time I got my iPhone, but now it's time for you to open up. You're going to have to open up. You're going to have to Zoom people. You may have to do a drive-by. If Big Mama always cooked the chicken and dressing and you love Big Mama chicken and dressing, Big Mama needs you to put that aluminum pan on the porch, and I'm going to swing through and get it, and I'm going to knock 3 times. I need you to look through the window, and I'm going to say, hey, Big Mama. I'm just going to have to find a new way of doing things, but we have to get out of what we're wrapped up in with how it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Life is free flowing, y'all. The one thing that we cannot control is how the sun comes up and how it goes down. But as long as it comes up and goes down, we have a new day. And so within that day, we have to make sure that we're being mindful and intentional within that day. And no, it's not going to look the way that we want it to look. But if we don't, we have to let go of what we want and embrace what we actually have. And that's a hard thing for us to do, but we got a skill called reset. We have to remember every situation encourages thought. And we cannot be within the mindset that we are so selfish that we are willing to hurt other people just because of what we want. That's not okay. We talk about it. I mean, my mind. No, we got to be us, we, ours together. And the only way that we're going to be able to combat this is us, we, ours together. That's all we got.
That's great. That's perfect. That's perfect. Coach Shaquan, what about relationships? So we know during this time, we've been spending a lot more time together. And now we're hitting the holidays where we, would not only spend it with our significant other, but with our family. So how do we navigate those relationships? We've been together all year.
Yes, we have. We absolutely have. So one of the things that I think is important is to look at the opportunity that's here, right? And so we've said, the pastor said it, Candace has said it, Etoy, like we've all said it here. This is no longer about what was. We are looking really into what currently is and really getting clear on what we've been resisting, right? Conversations that we've been resisting having, that we've been avoiding, sweeping under the rug, acting as if we could just move past it by the distractions of other things, other people's, other situations. And so now is a time when we really look at the meaning of Thanksgiving and what we're grateful for. This is a wonderful opportunity to put our communication skills into play and be creative. Again, we can have conversation within our home. We can write letters. Like we can get back to some of the basic things that we've always said we wanted to do, that we wanted to talk about, that we wanted to try. This is the opportunity. You've been asking for the time, and now you have the time, and you deny yourself the right to use what you've been asking for. So we must get back to doing the things and building the relationships where we are. And it's just that simple. And I think that you all have said pretty much the same things, that we've got to let go of this idea that we have the privilege to go and to be, when we have been instructed very clearly on what it is we are supposed to do in this time. Now, I would say this, one of the things that my family and I are doing, we are creating smaller shareable dishes. So yes, we all get together. We know my cousin makes the mac and cheese. I make the caramel cakes. I make the greens. So what we're doing is making smaller dishes, and then we're delivering them to each other's homes. And so you can still have the comfort of the food and the community that you would have. Well, we are really being very conscious and considerate and obedient to what is happening here. So it's not lost. It's about what will you do to break the resistance and create something.
Because that mac and cheese is important. Now. You can't eat everybody mac and cheese. Come on, somebody. Come on, Saints. Toya, what can you add to that as far as spending time with our families and our mental health during this time?
I think just kind of following up on what's already been said. I know for a lot of people, much like myself, just understand that it's okay to not like it, right? So it's okay to understand that change is difficult, right? If you've done a certain thing for 11 years, and now, guess what? Big Mama passed away. She's no longer with us, right? My grandmother passed away in February. And so this is our first Thanksgiving without her here. So guess what? It's okay to not like it, right? But then now that there's a time for us to evaluate what our needs are. Okay, relationships succeed or fail based on needs being met. So in this evaluation of yourself and what's available, what's possible, what are the possibilities now that you can explore? And again, like Candace said, through that, that grief process of understanding that It's okay to grieve the loss of that which no longer exists, but it's time for you have the opportunity to birth something new. And what's the word? Ask yourself the question, what's the worst that could happen if you allowed yourself to experience something new? And so for a lot of people, it's about the fear and anxiety of experiencing whatever that new thing is and understanding that it's okay. You give yourself some grace and allow yourself to experience, make some new cognitions, form some new relationships so that those needs can be met. And I think that, again, that's the barrier that a lot of people face that causes the anxiety and fear is, I have to try to do this without that person. I have to try to do this without, 87 people being at the table playing spades and smacking dominoes and whatever the situation is. And you have an opportunity to create something new that still makes that, fills that void. So when we talk about, again, this is an aspect of where personal self-care comes in and allowing yourself the freedom to make those new cognitions and form those new relationships that can fill those voids for you moving forward.
That's great. And Antoinette Brown said shareable dish is a great idea, but Antoinette, we only gonna share dishes that we can make well. Don't do the experiments and share them. We not on Thanksgiving, ma'am. Not on Thanksgiving. So JR, usually my family has a tradition that after we eat Thanksgiving dinner, when my children were younger anyway, I have adults now, but when they were younger, we would eat dinner, then we would go out for some entertainment, maybe to the movies or, to do something that's fun. So, so what can we do, or what are some ideas where we can still incorporate the entertainment aspect into our holidays?
Yeah. Well, so in our home, Amazon, the Echo is a real big tool in our home. So I think for a lot of us, if you don't have a smart home or you don't have a smart speaker, whatever you use to play music through in your home, for us, that's a really dope time after we eat too, to be able to celebrate songs that, remind us of good times or reminded us of Big Mama, or, just whether it's, gospel music, something just reminding us of the promises, promised to us. And so it's, for us, I think this would be a good time, and for our extended family, to use music, not also music and the arts, but also board games, to be able to just occupy this. Because listen, most of my auntie just called COVID. My auntie and my uncle, there ain't nobody coming over their house, coming by their house, and she was the main one that was like, you would show up at her crib, she would have a mask on, she like, leave it right there, baby, you know what I'm saying? But she let my little cousin in. He had the COVID, little dude, thinking he invincible, and gave them the COVID. So my family ain't doing none of that. Everybody gonna be in self quarantine, but we're all connected through devices. So we're on the Group Me app, and we're talking about recipes and exchanging recipes and talking about how we're gonna do this. But for as entertainment, board games, man, and just dancing, you know what I'm saying, in your own home, I think will bring a lot of joy. And two, it just lets you enjoy the people that's in your proximity. You see what I'm saying? And I think all of this is designed to get us to understand self, to get to know ourselves more and the people around us. So I've learned to love my children, you know what I'm saying, in a way that I haven't before this. And so, they're excited, but they know it's going to be different as well. And so, I'm just using it like every other day as an opportunity to enjoy the people around me. But board games, use that Echo smart.
Yeah, that's
device,
great. Music
whatever,
is so important, and music is therapeutic, especially during these times. So that's really good. Melva, what can we do as far as, so usually the day after Thanksgiving, it's Black Friday, and everybody, slams into each other in the stores and, knock over TVs and stuff trying to get them. So how do we cope with that, not having that in our lives this year, as far as finances go? Okay.
I unmuted myself. I feel like, well, first of all, they are saying that a lot of stores are kind of foregoing the whole Black Friday thing. They're offering other ways to do it. I feel like I don't think there's anything wrong with treating yourself. We have already had to make adjustments for new budgets, for just kind of the way we spend our money, our bottom line doesn't look the same. And I feel like that's personal and corporately across the board. Nobody's bottom line for 2020 is even close to what they forecasted from 2019. Let's just call it what it is. So sometimes you do have to celebrate those small wins, even if it's not the same. If you're used to doing Black Friday, go online and buy you some happy. Nobody is saying that it's irresponsible to spend at all. If you have a plan in place, if you have a budget in place, use this time to, sometimes we have to create, like we said, it's not going to be the same. But sometimes we have to do something that is familiar, just to kind of bring back that sense of normalcy. I like the way JR was saying that you could put music on in your house, but it's still nothing wrong with jumping in your car and taking a drive. Put the window down, ride down the highway, find a place to go that's outdoors, something nature. Create these new habits, and these are inexpensive habits for your family. You say, okay, come now. Listen, now Toya is trying to give us some wisdom behind y'all back, but he said that stock in Walmart first. Then he trying to tell you how to do it. Now invest in yourself. They call it skin in the game. If you skin in the game is when you believe in something. If it's your own product, your own whatever, and you put yourself in there to the extent of I'm putting money in here. I'm telling you that I believe in this risk. So put skin in the game, Walmart. Then go shop. But that's the thing. Create these new. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, or you don't have to do a whole new financial overhaul in order to create new traditions. Find ways to get back to those things. We talked about that earlier, and that's one of the things we push in our FInOp process. We give you what we call the deal, and that is to define, eliminate, and then the A is automation or accountability, and the L is leverage or liberation. And that's what we like to say. That E is eliminate. What are you willing to give up to have what you want? If it means that my money is looking funny, then what am I willing to give up? I'll give up a couple dollars worth of gas to have this family fun, to have spend some time with me and my children. I believe it's the World Trade. What do they call it? It's that company here, Worldwide Technologies. They have a track now where they're doing the lights. Put your family in the car. Go look at lights. It doesn't always have to come down to spending money. We can't equate money to happiness or money to satisfaction, or I'll pay you to release the guilt that I'm feeling. No, there are ways to enjoy your family and to create these new traditions and still be fiscally responsible. It doesn't have to, you don't have to rob Peter to pay Paul, because as my cousin say, Paul gonna get his money now. But you don't have to rob Peter to pay Paul to create these new traditions. Look up free things. What are you paying for a whole carload? How can we do that? These are ways that I can still maintain my social bubble. It's just me and my children, me, my husband, my children, but we don't have to break the bank, and we're still engaging in activities, things that change up the monotony of just being in the house. Some of us are tired of being in the house. I am. Mm-hmm. I'm used to going on trips. So to say that we're going to ride over to Granite City here in St. Louis, from St. Louis to Afton, and we used to go to Pierre Marquette when we was little, but to let the kids out, look at the thing, look at the water, that's free. That's free. And we've enjoyed ourselves. We may have paid $5 worth of gas between our home and there. So there are definitely ways to create a new normal and still not break your budget.
Mm-hmm. Toya, what were you saying about self-soothing behaviors?
Yeah, I think a lot of much like Mel was saying, like a lot of the what we're seeing right now, and I know I've been in a lot of conversations where people are actually evaluating what they've done, up until now, and just realizing how much waste they've created. And understanding new lean processes for their own selves. Like, wow, how much stuff, now that I'm having to sit in this space and realize what I have going on around me, or what I've shielded and sheltered myself with, or what I've enclosed myself in via, self-soothing behaviors, whether that be the result of struggling with mental illness or whatever have you. A lot of people are breaking free now, understanding that their emotional attachment to these things can be broken, and they can get out and do and accept and experience something new. So, I mean, thrift store, all these places are popping now because people are giving away stuff that they know that they no longer need, or their emotional attachment to that thing has been broken and they no longer live in bondage to those things. You don't have to go out and every dollar, you don't have to go and run out and spend it before you even cash it. You don't have to do that, right? You can create something new at home that allows you to create new emotional connections and meet those emotional needs and keep something in your pocket on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Candace, what do you say to that? Have you seen the influx of people talking about the self-soothing behaviors and breaking those behaviors or anything like that?
I think what I've seen a lot of is a lot of people are really recognizing, you know, what's important and what's not important in their lives, you know, right now. You know, something that, you know, this pandemic has did, it's really made everybody reflect, not because you wanted to, but because you ain't have nothing else to do but reflect on what was going on in your life and what was happening around you. You know, we all had to really kind of do what I call an emotional inventory on ourselves and look at where we were mentally, spiritually, physically, and financially. You know, we had to do that. And so now with people doing that, they really are understanding that there are a lot of things that I thought I needed that I don't need. There are a lot of things that I thought were important that weren't important, you know, and really learning to look inside of self and recognizing that there are a lot of things that I have within myself that don't cost any money that I can utilize to make myself happy, you know, because happiness and peace are inside jobs, no matter how we look at it. And so, you know, that's the one thing that I have come across is a lot of people getting to that point where they're recognizing that there were a lot of things that I was spending money on outside that really aren't that important. But I'm gonna take it to the other side and I'm a little guilty of this. So I ain't judging y'all, you know, but we also got them people that keep having them Amazon boxes show up at their house. You know, and so that's something as well, you know, where we also have learned that, I got comfort inside of my own house and I ain't got to go out for this. And so, you know, now I'm taking the time after I, you know, declutter the things that I don't need. Now I can put the things in my space that I do need because I know what I need now to make sure that I have, you know, a good place to be mentally, spiritually, physically, and financially free. So
that's great. Let's stay on that decluttering topic. And Pastor, when we talk about decluttering and the things that we've realized during this time that were really just clutter, can we speak to some of the things that maybe the church, the kingdom as a whole, we should be looking at to declutter? I heard you earlier.
I'm really trying to be nice on this podcast. This wonderful panel. Here's the thing. The global church has been living in excess for a very long time. And we have then caused people to live in excess and above their means with a prosperity message that is not biblical. When we talk about prosperity in the Bible, it is not a financial increase. It is erasing a poverty mentality. And so you can be rich having what you need. Most of us think rich is having what we want. And so we have not been good stewards of how we, I'm trying to be nice, Holy Spirit. We have not been good stewards in the way that we have been teaching the gospel. And so we have also not been good stewards in stewarding people financially and allowing the members who give money how to then steward their money. So that's not happening in the church? No, I mean, I don't know about, So, for instance, in our fellowships, we actually have a financial advisor available to everyone. And it is a requirement that you sit with them. Because we will help in times of need, but we also have to figure out what is the pathology that keeps you coming back to this point. Okay? But we also have to give you scripture, right, to live by So we say this. We say we have to pay tithes. The Bible says bring tithes. Anything I pay, I can choose if I want to pay it or not.
Correct.
Anything I bring is from a heart posture because I have a commitment and affection and a love for the thing, right, that I'm bringing something to. And so people have literally think that they are paying God and then want God to provide services for their payment. When the money that you are bringing is his in the first place.
Right.
So let me tell you what my god sister and her husband said something to us. And I was like, that's the way I want to live. They said, we are trying to build and steward according to the gospel so that we don't live where God gets 10 and we live in 90. We want to be able to give the 90 and live on the 10.
Wow.
And I really believe that God's people, if we really understood biblically, if we were steward financially, like FInOp, like these moments here, where we actually, because culturally, African Americans have not always had, right, the fiscal responsibility and the knowledge to be fiscally responsible.
Right.
And then the church brings them in. Oh, I'm so trying to be nice. And then we manipulate.
Right. Come on.
The minimal resources they have,
Mm-hmm.
and not teaching properly why they should give. And their giving isn't to me, it's unto God.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we have made the lights in the building more important than the lights on in the eyes of people, then we are wrong from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. What we have learned in this moment is we don't need all this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't need all this really should cause all of us to go, well, Lord, I'm sorry. I've made all this about you and you ain't even in all this.
Mm-hmm.
So where is God and how do I get to him? What do I need versus what I want in this moment? And how do I become a good steward in everything? A steward of my marriages, my relationships, my finances, my heart, my soul, my spirit, my body, right? This was the biggest New Year resolution ever, and many of us missed it. Just like Coach Karen said, oh, God, I want more time. If I have more time for my family, if I have more time for my kids, if I have more time to pray, if I have more time to study. Well, we've had all the time in the world and still have yet to become what he gave us time to become.
Right.
And so as a global church, we have to realize our mental well-being is important. Please go to therapy. There's a lot, just please, okay? There's some things you're not going to pray away. God bless you.
Mm-hmm.
Pray for the therapist that will help you to, right? But the church has taught an error that we are to get over it.
Yeah. Yes.
But you will never get over, you will get through it. And there are professionals to help you get through. Prayer will help you get through, but prayer will also direct you to the right help because God has concern for his children. I'm done. I got 3 minutes.
That was good. That was great. You had the gallery going crazy. I know everybody has something to say. That was spot on. And yes, you were very nice.
Not be trying to be good.
You know, your courtesy was not necessary. You could have just had the floor, but you are so right. Go ahead, Melvin.
I was just going to say, Pastor Kai has to jump off in a few minutes. I just want to thank you for your honesty, your expertise. You already know every time y'all, it's a problem when me and Pastor Kai get together because we're supposed to do work and then we sit there all day and it's never good because it's the conversation. But this is why. This is exactly what we need to hear. Don't listen. I'm going to give you a platform to always give it the way it should be given. You don't have to hold back. You don't have to bite your tongue because it's what needs to be said. We have to get out of this ideology of smoke and mirrors. We have to understand that the church that we've been taught as it was is an organization, and you need to look at that like that. But we are the church. We are the ecclesia. We are the pillar and ground of truth. And when we start carrying ourselves as the church and stop looking to the building and the organization to meet these needs. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done because I didn't come here to do this. I came here to tell you thank you for coming.
Please say one last thing. And here's what I really want to say before I go is for those of you struggling right now financially and you may be a part of a ministry, here's the thing. If the ministry cannot meet your needs, trust me, there is a community, there are resources, and there are people that will. Okay? Too many, you know, when I was growing up, and if your rent wasn't paid, you tell the ministry, and then they have the committee, and then it takes 2 weeks for the committee to decide if they're going to give you the money, and you done been evicted. I still don't understand. Okay? But God, don't be so prideful that you miss that your help is in front of you while you're waiting for somebody, for an organization to do something that they might not be willing to do. This is why the ecclesia has to show up right now. This is why God is calling the remnant right now, those who have been on the backside of the mountain, forward, this group right here, because people need to see God. If we're supposed to be these living epistles, then you got to be able to call me to the carpet. If I say I'm a follower of Christ and you have a need, if I can meet it, I need to meet it. And if I can't, I need to help you find where you can go.
That's right.
So I'm grateful for FInOp because you are creating avenues for people to find help and hope. So I love y'all. I hope I see all y'all again. Y'all are amazing.
Thank you so much.
Give us your contact info. Where can we find you right quick, Pastor Kai? Real quick.
Okay, where can you find me? Everything is my name. So Facebook, Kai A. Panetta. Instagram, I am Kai A. Panetta. Same as Twitter. And KaiPanetta.com. That's it. I love y'all. Thank you so much.
Love you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Latoya, what were you just saying about your pastor? I missed it.
Yeah, I was just saying that, you know, some of the conflict, right? And that, you know, Pastor was, you know, I mean, I don't know, if I had a microphone, it would be dropped and shattered into a million pieces. The reality of the situation is that's where a lot of conflict is happening for a lot of people who are stuck in traditional modes of doing church, is not understanding that, you know, their pastor and their therapist can exist in the same space. And if they don't exist in the same space, then there's a problem. That level of love, of emotional conflict creates spiritual trauma that has, you know, bogged us down for centuries. So it's now getting to the point where you have to decide your decision, right? And then understanding that it's okay. And a lot of people have been kept from, let's keep it 100 now. A lot of people have been kept from seeking traditional forms of mental. So there's two sides to it, right? So on the one side of it, we're bound up by traditional church theology about what seeking mental health services look like, because you just need to pray, come lay it at the altar and blah, 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 and lay in this suffrage and boom, boom, bing, bing. On the other side of it is not having enough service providers with Black and brown skin that we can go to, that understand, or that we can connect to from a relational standpoint that can help us create those spaces. So now we're stuck in the middle with, you know, where do we go, right? Am I behaving in a way that's contrary to what's being taught over here? And do I go over here and get this historical or systemic mistreatment that has also been in place since, you know, for as long as we can remember? So if anything, there's this in many spaces where pastors and churches actually get it. There's been this wonderful marriage of the delivery of what ministry is along, and it's been able to join hands with mental wellness to create what actually should be happening in these spaces. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. And if you're a part of a church, or I don't care what it is, not have to be a church, ministry, business, school, it don't matter what it is, your own relationship. If these two things are incongruent, if you can't find mental peace and wellness in this space, then it's a reevaluation.
And I know Candace has something to say in addition to that. But also just want to add that just because God called you to be a pastor doesn't mean that he also called you to be a therapist.
Come on, I'm just saying.
Come on now. Can we do that? Because now I'm about to start acting.
You hear me? I'm like, I need to throw something, Lord. Let's throw something. I feel like I need something to throw. But that's the reality of it. And even, going back a couple steps to what, to what Pastor said, we have to understand that we are mind, body, and soul. And that's the realest thing ever. And so, when we pray, when somebody says, when somebody comes to the church and say, I have cancer, people are going to say, we're going to pray about it. And we're also going to pray that the doctor that is caring for you has what they need to help you become healthy. Same thing. When God tells you, when you go and pray and God sends you a therapist, I need you not to think that I can't go to this therapist, because God prepared these vessels as well for us to be able to help you help yourself be the best version of you. That's the biggest thing in the world. If you're going to go to somebody physical to make sure that they can help you, you need to be able to go to somebody mental, because God didn't prepare you for what you need to have to get to where you got to go, but he prepared other people. Therefore, because we, again, as I say all the time, we are better together.
Right.
You can't expect to be a brain surgeon if you ain't never been to medical school to do brain surgery. So don't knock yourself for what you don't know. But be open enough to receive what you need, because if we don't have it inside of us, the resources are there, and it's absolutely okay. It's nothing wrong with it. And we got to understand that church hurt is real.
Oh my goodness.
You know what I'm saying? And we have to acknowledge that. And sometimes we have to be able to acknowledge that in the church, we have hurt more than we have helped when it comes down to mental wellness. And we got to own that. And because, like I said before, we have to be willing, and that's as Black people in the church, we have to be willing to unlearn the things that we were taught were right. Because they may have been right at that term, at that point of our lives, but we don't need that stuff anymore. We need something different, because the world is continuously changing. So we have to be willing to change with it. We got to unlearn the things we thought were right so we can relearn new ways of doing things. And you can absolutely lay it on the altar, but lay it on the altar between 9 and 1, and then go talk to your therapist at 1:30. It's absolutely okay.
Exactly. And make sure you take your medicine.
Please and thank you.
Yes. On schedule. Yes. Yes. Church hurt is real. Church hurt is real. Church hurt is a real thing. And sometimes you can be hurt in the church by people who don't necessarily realize that they hurt you. But when you realize that you hurt somebody, then your next step should be an apology. So many times we tell people, just get over it. You're going to be okay. I mean, it was wrong, but no, apologize. No. Let people know that what you said was wrong. If you hurt somebody publicly, apologize publicly to let them, to validate their feelings and let them know that they are seen and heard. That's the problem that we have. And y'all are so on point. Latoya, where you going? Oh no, Coach, I'm sorry. Coach Shaquan, you had your hand up.
All right, there we go. So this is okay, y'all. This is good. Okay, all of this is good. One of the things that I want to recognize in terms of this concept of therapy. So there is a difference between therapists, counselors, and coaches, and usually pastors in the church fall within that council. And so we also look at, again, this concept of where can I go to be less shamed, right? Less embarrassed. This whole belief system, right, that we created about not letting people in our business, when in fact, every successful business has a board of directors. So you absolutely need more than your pastor in your church. You absolutely need a therapist. And then there are some people who need a coach. Now, I'm going to shift the conversation just a little bit in terms of going a little deep down and dirty. From my concept, when I'm working with clients, I tell them that you're absolutely full of shit. Okay, let's talk about what that stands for. It stands for shame, hurt, insecurities, and truth. And until you clean that up, then all of what you're going through and not really wanting to do those things that the work that is required will keep you stuck. And so we're talking about, again, not wanting to go see a therapist, only wanting to go to what your place of familiarity is. And so when you get there, you will absolutely continue to repeat the cycles because you're not willing to do the work. You're not willing to expose yourself and expose those places of shame. And so we must shift out of this BS about who we can go to, who's in our business, who's going to tell our business. That's not what it's about. The most successful people and the people that you admire, the people like on our panel, we've done the work. We've had to expose ourselves. We've had to lay our shame out. We've had to go to those deep, dark places where we wanted to take from the cradle to the grave. And you may not have a past to go. You can't excuse this, right? You don't get to just, like she said, go over. You got to go through it. And so if you want to get there to that place of healing, that place of understanding, to really have your purpose and your passion and to live out the life that you truly desire, that you know that God created for you, you must absolutely get some help. You can't pass that. You just can't. And you can't take the easy route. You don't have permission to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But
can I just piggyback right quick on that? But that is, I think that's the problem with the church. It is the humility and the humbleness that it takes to first admit that you have the problem. So in church, we're taught, Etoya, stop making me laugh. In the church, we're taught to have these, to me, unrealistic expectations because we are taught things without being taught the background, without being taught the context. We talked a lot. I just taught this past Tuesday at my Bible study, 2 Corinthians 7. And when you read it, you would feel like, oh, I'm supposed to do this. And nobody understood that was just Paul's grievance to the church of Corinth. He was mad and he was crying and he was upset because they were mad at him at his teachings. But we try to make these situations universal law. And then we look at these pastors who teach us, and then they can't uphold what they're teaching. So now they want us to do as they say and not as they do. And now the church is steeped in hypocrisy, steeped in miscommunication, miseducations. People aren't rightly dividing. And so then they put it on us and tell us, so you have to be like this. And if you're like this, then it's something wrong with you. If you need to see a therapist, then you're not trusting God. If you need to see a therapist, then you're not taking him at his word and applying the word to your life. If you need to see a therapist, they put all of these crazy
Lies.
Lies.
They lies.
And we are creating our journey based on trying to live up to these lies we're told. Mm-hmm. And we're finding it difficult because then we feel like Paul, oh, wretched man I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this flesh, because I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing. But that's only because you told me the wrong thing. So I feel like that's kind of where it is. That's kind of where we are. I'm trying not to. That's kind of where we are in this. Yeah, I'm loving this conversation. I'm loving this panel. I'm off. I'm gone. And okay, right quick, JR. We had this conversation, and sometimes it's difficult to figure out how do we walk. What is our walk supposed to be then? How do we decipher the real from the fake? How do we know when to go seek help or not? Okay,
yeah.
That's it.
Yes. Self-awareness, man, that is one of the most invaluable disciplines that I've ever been exposed to. And it's amazing because as men, you know, we are taught to keep pushing. You get injured and keep pushing because it's weak to talk about how you feel. So the first thing that I value and I learned as a dope man, learning how to be a true man, was learning that, even as right now, I'm undoing a lot of toxic masculinity. You see what I'm saying? A lot of things I saw with my grandfather, my father, and a lot of stuff, hard work ethics. I'm not making excuses. You know what I'm saying? Letting your yes be yes and your no be no. But I also learn how to cover up. I also learn how to wear a lot of masks. I also learned, if you don't know yourself, you can't give something you don't possess. And so, for me, having men around me and having women around me too, the people that I can trust and that I can say, hey, first you got to have that circle, right? We talked about friends who help us to be better or not. But for men, it's very important to have that person that you can talk to and you can truly be honest. You see what I'm saying? And if you don't have that, man, then it's going to be hard, because a lot of us are scared to enter into this mind. So that's why we smoke, we drink, we party, we sex it away, we do all these different things, because we don't want to enter into it's some trauma in there, and it's some shit that has created a deep hole in our hearts. And so for me, finding a place to be vulnerable, finding a place to tell somebody, listen, I have thoughts of killing myself. I don't like my children. My husband makes me sick. You see what I'm saying? All these different, if you don't have a self place to say, this is how I feel, then you're sitting duck. So for me, self-awareness, and then having people around you who can say, hey, that thinking is not healthy, right? You know, my partners, I'm trying to get them to understand that. Some of my partners, they like to surround themselves with other broken people so they can just sit around and talk about their brokenness. And I'm always telling them, I'm like, bro, it's cool to talk about, to be honest, but if nobody got a solution, you know what I mean? Then all of y'all just sitting, drinking and smoking and freestyling, and then just recycling each other's issues with no solution. And you go back to the same thing. So having that trust is very important, to be transparent, where when you confess that you've messed up or you have some thinking that's not healthy, that the voice on the other side is not going to come back with judgment, but they're going to come back in grace, and they're going to come back in affirmation. And then they're going to help you take that first step. Most men, we're scared, because a lot of times that can be used against you. Look, what so-and-so told me last night. Look, weak dude, you know what I'm saying? And you're like, dog, you told my business. And then from there, you ain't never sharing nothing again. You know what I'm saying? So self-awareness is so valuable, because it keeps me from deceiving myself. And I remember my pastor friend, I asked him, I said, this was before I started going to counseling. I was like, why you go see a counselor, bro? I was like, everything okay? He was like, yeah. He was like, I just go when I have intrusive thoughts of thoughts that I don't know what to do with. He was like, so I have that time with my counselor to say, hey, these thoughts came across my thinking, my school of thought. I sense they're unhealthy. Help me to find out where to put that. You know what I'm saying? And then you leave that hour meeting with that person having a better understanding of yourself, and now having that knowledge to be able to govern accordingly. You know what I mean? So
that's so good. I want to speak to what you said, JR, before Atoya speaks, that I remember wanting to write and create novels. And I always felt there was a barrier, like I couldn't really get it done. I didn't really know what it was. And then I was finally able to step away from some of the faulty core values that somebody just talked about, and realize that I had to develop my own relationship with God. I had to develop it outside of what people had told me growing up, or what I had even repeated that people had said. You know, once I finally stepped into a new set of core values and understanding who I was and who God was to me, then I was able to actually create. One of my biggest hangups was creating romance novels, contemporary romance novels with a spiritual aspect, but people still had sex, you know? So like, I'm like, I can't, because church people don't have sex, right. So you can't put that down.
Right. Well, y'all came out of eggs.
Man, some of my biggest critics was people in the church. Like, I can't believe she said the pastor that had sex with the, how you think the pastor got the kids? But it was what we had been taught. You know, it's what I had been taught. And it holds you so tight, you know, even though, you know, like, this don't make sense. But man, them values, you know, when you build up on those wrong values, you will really be messed up. But once you can step free, your creativity will flow.
You preach it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Etoya. Gonna unmute his mic.
I don't really know if y'all want me to do this.
Go for it. We want you to do it.
So what JR said, man, is so critically important, right? And as I'm talking to me, so the focus of my practice, right? And I have female clients, I have kids, and I have, but the emphasis of my practice is for men and boys in and from Black and brown spaces, because we have to be better, right? And so a lot of what JR said is so critically important, because we find ourselves, here's some of the stuff that we have to sort through. It is, we are removed from the homes, right? Historically removed from the homes. We were targeted, removed for, systematically our families were destroyed. And so we come from a place where when we came to this country, we needed each other for survival, right? The reality of the situation is we needed each other for survival. It was not optional. And so now we're up against, as men, we're up against a system that forces our women and our families to choose us or the system, right? And so that creates a whole different layer of mental, social, emotional dynamics, economic dynamics, and so on and so forth, right? So we're going to have to push back against this culture, right? And so one of the things that JR said was, like, so you've seen generations of Uncle Bobo, Cousin Ray Ray, they've done all this shit that's dysfunctional or whatever have you, and trying to give me advice, and they got 11 kids spread out over 27 different neighborhoods and so on and so, families in the same neighborhood and all these other different types of things. And we have to get to the point where we understand that what has been taking place does not work, but it doesn't happen outside of you realizing that as an individual and deciding that you need to do something different. What's the worst that could happen if you didn't lay babies all over the place and then wonder why you didn't see the example before of men involved in the family court system or whatever have you? Because we force women to choose, right? And so now we have to choose ourselves. The great American philosopher Ricky Bobby said, "If you're not first, you're last." So if you don't take this opportunity, man, to become one with how you feel, right? It's our inability to emotionally regulate in these relationship spaces. So again, when we're teaching, we're creating sociopaths, which is what we're doing. We create sociopaths when we don't allow young men to emotionally regulate and create more reasoning that allows them to understand, like, hey, you know what? I can establish a behavioral baseline for myself because I understand what's right and what's wrong based off of the value that this has for me. So I know that in this situation, when I encounter this situation, I can make this educated decision. I can critically think and I can make effective decisions based off of what I've learned from myself, right? So I can come into this marital relationship, right? And my friend April, Dr. April, we had a conversation several weeks ago, because the reality of the situation is that men learn how to lust before they learn how to love. And so we learn how to lust based on those examples of the people that came before us, because we ourselves are the fruit of these dysfunctional or bastardized relationships, whatever have you. We come from any number of different circumstances, and now we have the opportunity to get some new information. We again can look at the person across from us and create vicarious resilience, right? And vicarious resilience is the concept of being able, I can look at JR as a brother and see that, man, he was able to overcome something. And so I know I have the inspiration and the motivation. And as a community of men, we can operate in vicarious resiliency and create that among each other. You know what? If he can do it, I can do it. You know what? If he can heal his relationship with his dad, I can do it. If I can go back and not be broken down, whatever, if I can put to the side my relationship with the co-parent, baby mama, whoever it is, and I can focus on my relationships with my kids and give them the best that I have to offer them, and know that it doesn't have to be perfect, but I can be vulnerable enough to learn some new skills as a man and as a father and as an uncle. See, that's where shame comes in. Shame comes in and it keeps us from understanding and acknowledging that I'm 44, but you know what? I can go learn some new skills so the next 44 can be better than the first 44.
Right.
And those new skills is going to cause me to have to push back against Uncle Bobo. It's going to have to cause me to push back against Cousin Ray Ray so that they know that, hey, you know what? That might work for you, but I'm trying to do something different because that doesn't work in my life. It doesn't allow me to examine all the stuff that y'all did, all the possibility modeling that y'all did is what created what's in my soil. And now I understand an evaluation of what's in my soil. I can look at the trees and the branches and know that this produces some shit that doesn't work in my life. I need to make a decision to change it. And if I don't, nobody can give me that. I got to go get it for myself. So when I'm sitting with my 14-year-old son, and I know that I might not know everything about what I'm talking about, but because I didn't learn it from who I was supposed to learn it from, it doesn't absolve me of the responsibility of learning it and giving it to him the best way that I can, and also directing him to other brothers in this space who can give him what I'm not able to give him.
That's absolutely correct. That is Amazing. That's amazing. I'm glad you went on and spoke up, because it's so important. And one of the things that you talked about, Ricky Bobby, which I also love Ricky Bobby, and it demonstrates your point completely, is when Ricky Bobby said that quote to his dad. His dad said, "Who told you that? That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. You could be second, you could be third." You know, but he had built his foundation on a faulty principle that didn't even make sense to the person that told it to him in the first place. You know, so coming full circle and realizing that we have to stand on our own truths is that's brilliant. Thank you, Latoya. Candace.
I mean, I feel like the mic has already been dropped, but you know what I just wanted to say, just to kind of piggyback off of what's already been said, y'all, we can't heal the things that we refuse to acknowledge. And that's the one thing that is the realest thing ever. So we be willing to look at things and actually examine those things. And so it's like, you know, with chaos, we talk about intention, attention, and attitude. And so if you don't do anything else, I need you to be intentional about what you're doing and why you are doing things. But I also need you to give awareness to who and what you're giving your attention to and why. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Because everything has a root. And so you have to figure out where that root came from. Am I doing this because I think of it myself? Am I doing this because somebody told me to do it? Am I doing this because I saw somebody else do it? You got it from somewhere. So we have to go back and look at where the root is. And like Latoya was saying about the soil, yeah, our family, they are the soil in which our tree sits in. But sometimes you got to dig that up and go put it into some more soil, because the soil that was originally given to you was some toxic soil. And so everything that grows from your tree is going to be toxic, and that's not fair. And that comes from that whole thought process that we say, what happens in my house stays in my house. Y'all, if don't nothing else happen today, can we kill that? Because if what happens in my house stays in my house, and the people in my house don't know how to heal what's going on in my house, when I leave that house to go into my own house, I'm taking that broken mess with me. So let's reach outside of our homes to learn the things that we don't know. And let's stop judging people, because who the hell are we to judge somebody just because they struggle differently than we do? We all struggle.
If I had an offering plate, I would pass it. I would get on the mic and collect an offer for everybody, and this would be my mic. But that was exactly so true, so true. So, this conversation has been amazing, and so I want to go around and do. Everybody have a couple of quick comments, and after your comment, can you please tell everyone where we can find you? We'll start with JR.
Hop off. I got to get ready for open house. A couple clients coming by, but man, listen. Like I said, it's a blessing to be among you guys in such a room full of wealth and knowledge and experience. Me and Mev have been been on each other almost 20 years. I'm just glad to be in a positive space where I know God is doing something. I'm hearing everybody speak, and I'm hearing the Spirit's, tattoo on everything you're saying. You see what I'm saying? And so for me, I'm looking forward to the collective effort of us, what it looks like when we get our minds and hearts together. So I'm just here playing my part. You know what I mean? So if you want to reach me, Courtney Orlando, at Facebook, Courtney Orlando, Instagram, Courtney Orlando, SoundCloud. But when it comes to Twitter, it's Courtney Lando without the OR. Releasing a new project, top of the year. Just released 2 new singles. Dr. Etoya, I got to get with you because my whole project is about my journey through mental health. And so we're putting together a podcast right now, like a red table, so to speak, where I want to have this same conversation with men, but amongst a professional. So I'm going to definitely be reaching out to you. But was a blessing, man.
Thank you.
Hope you guys have
Thank
an
you,
amazing
JR.
Saturday.
Atoya?
Mm-hmm.
Muted. All right. I'm gonna direct this message to the brothers, man. I mean, like, take an honest assessment, right? I want you to back away for 1 minute, man. Back away from your relationship. I deal with a lot of brothers who are, still stuck in avoidant behaviors. You know, we work extra shifts and we do all these things to avoid what we don't want to face and what we don't want to deal with. And we make ourselves, you know, busy, which becomes avoidant, right? And so evaluate every system. Everything in your life functions as a system, right? Human beings don't exist outside of relationships. Everything's a relationship. Relationships are everything. So take a look at what's going on with your kids. Take a look at what's going on in your relationship, your first relationship with yourself. Take a look at what you're doing personally and decide to give yourself a chance. Give yourself some grace and decide to give yourself an opportunity to do something different. And it's okay if people don't come with you, because when you put those healthy boundaries in place and you decide to protect these 5 areas of your personal property, that's how you think, that's how you feel, that's how you act, that's what you say, and that's your value and belief system. When you decide to put fences around your personal property, some people aren't going to like it, and that's okay. But in order for you to be your best self, you have to evaluate what those 5 areas mean and how they function and what manifests in your own life first, so then you can begin to weed out and make changes. And it doesn't mean those people have to go away. It just means that the structure of those relationships need to change, and we're all here to help each other do that. And at the end of the day, we all we got, we all we need. And so if you don't take this opportunity to do it for yourself, man, like, what's the alternative be? Like, just examine what the alternative is. Either you're going to continue to be miserable, or you're going to give yourself an opportunity to learn some new information, learn some new skills, and be the best person that you can for yourself first, and then for your partner or kids, or however those relationship dynamics work for you, and enjoy the rest of your life. The rest of your life is the best of your life. Like Eric Thomas says, let's get it, man.
Mm-hmm. So where can we find you?
I'm everywhere. You know what I mean? I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. Look me up by name, Etoya White. I'm on Facebook. If I need to kick some people off the island and get the real folk on there, I'll 5,000. I'll kick some people off the island. That's good. Look me up by name or follow Etoya coaching at EtoyaWhite.com. My website, personal website, is EtoyaWhite.com. You can find me on Psychology Today. You can look up my store on Instagram. It's Thera_Tees. Man, 636-299-0039. My business page is also on Facebook, Etoya White Therapy and Coaching. Just hit me up. Like I said, everybody doesn't need therapy, but everybody needs relationships. So come get this work.
Outstanding. Thank you, Etoya. Coach Shaquan.
Yes, this has been wonderful, amazing. So thank you all for sharing your expertise. It's always such an honor, right, to be around people who we have the similar mindset, and we are all coming together as kingdom builders, doing our part. There's enough space for all of us, and so we ask all of you to join us and come and get in this space, right? The one thing that I want to let people know that's on my heart is that it's going to cost you. Right? Whether you stay stuck, whether you suffer in silence, whether you choose to stand up and speak your truth, it's going to cost you. And sometimes we get in a place of believing that we don't have to pay the price, right? And so whatever you choose to do, whether it's an investment in yourself, whether you choose to find some additional resources, that it's going to cost you. So you absolutely have a choice on whether you want to stay or where you want to move forward. In terms of checking your BS, similar to what we've said here, belief system, it comes from 3 sources, right? Your belief system is a habitual group of thoughts that you have developed, and it comes from 3 sources: something you were taught, something you experienced, or something you assume. And so I would like to encourage anyone, if you are feeling as if you are stuck in your BS, go to my website, checkyourbs.com. Follow me on social media at Coach Shaquan everywhere. There is enough resources. And if you can see, we are all connected and sharing the same thing. So please do not let your people and do not let yourself suffer in silence. Truth is where your heart and mind meet to be in the will of God, and you have a purpose and an opportunity at this time to do something different. And we are here to support you.
Coach Shaquan. That was wonderful. Thank you for being here. Candace.
There we go. I am just thankful and grateful for this, because I believe it was very organic, and what we create together. So I think this was absolutely amazing. I am the person that believes that mental wellness is dope. Dope is done on purpose every day. And so I just want to leave you guys with the chaos affirmation. And it is: my story is my story because it makes me who I am. I'm never ashamed of what I've been through. I'm now doing the best I can. My feelings are my feelings, even when it's a burden to hold. There is nothing wrong with saying it's hard to carry the load. I reset now to remember every situation encourages thought. When I realize, admit, and work through my issues, I can get raw. I embrace my whole truth as I break free. Forgive, release, embrace, and elevate over any dis-ease. One day at a time, no shame on the days I feel troubled. Working hard every day to keep healing and overcoming struggles. Understand that you got this and we got this. And you guys, we can do this together. If you guys want to learn more about the Chaos Mindset, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Chaos Mindset. That's KHAOSMINDSET. You also can find us online at Chaos Inc. And if you want to just follow me, I'm on social media, Candace E. Cox, LCSW on Facebook, and Candace Cox on LinkedIn. And I look forward to healing and growing with you guys.
That was amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Candace. You added so much to the conversation. We appreciate it. Melvin?
I know y'all. Listen, when they say after church, I am full, say. I have been fed. I have feasted. Hallelujah. No, let me stop. But I have to first say thank you. I'm putting in little notes in our little private chat because each of these panelists, today is my first day really meeting Etoya. We've talked over the phone, but I could say these are my friends, y'all. These are my people. And the Lord has blessed me to be surrounded by such amazing people. They didn't ask me for much. They listen. All they said was, I do it. And that's enough for me. That's favor. So I can't thank you all enough. I have to say that first. I don't take your kindness to me for granted. One thing I want to say as a close is FInOp Consulting Group. We are ones who feel like we want to offer, or our goal and our mission is to offer financial literacy and education to underserved communities. Y'all, they didn't tell us this stuff. Like we always said before, money was taboo to be talked about in the house. So we want to offer this freely, but we understand that the knowledge of financial literacy is not where it ends. We found out that it's a behavior thing. So we address it holistically by approaching 4 elements in your life: your social, your spiritual, your physical, and your intellectual, evaluating your properties, helping you to create a process. And that's all it takes. Like Coach Shaquan said earlier, it's time to just stop saying what you're going to do. And you have to put the commitment in place to get it done. And we're here to help you get it done by being your accountability partners. So you can find us, honey, at www.finopconsultinggroup.com. We're on Facebook under FInOp. We are on Instagram under FInOp. Look for us. Join our community. Let's talk.
All right. So this was an amazing panel. You guys did an amazing job. And anytime you talk to me, you know I'm gonna go completely off script, and you guys kept up. So I appreciate the conversation. God bless you all, and we'll talk next time. Bye, everybody.